Hello students, today we will do summary of the play Macbeth. Macbeth is a play written by William Shakespeare in 1606. Let's start the story. Duncan is an old king of Scotland and he has two sons, Malcolm and Donalbain. Macbeth and Banquo are two of his generals. Macbeth is related to the king. He is brave and loyal to the king. One day, the king gives Macbeth and Banquo the task of defeating some of his rebels. They defeat the rebels before sunset and set out to meet the king. On the way, they pass through a jungle. There they come across three witches. The witches make a prophecy that Macbeth would become the Thane of Cawdor. Later, he will become the king. When Banquo asks them about himself, they say that Banquo himself will never be the king, but his progeny would become the kings of Scotland. And after some time, Ross meets Macbeth and informs him that the king has made him the Thane of Cawdor. Macbeth starts thinking whether the other prophecy of the witches would also come true. He starts dreaming of becoming the king of Scotland. The king then warmly greets Macbeth and Banquo. To Macbeth's disappointment, King Duncan declares his eldest son Malcolm Prince of Cumberland. At Inverness Castle, Macbeth's wife learns of his encounter with the witches and decides that she will persuade Macbeth to fulfill his destiny through foul play. She then learns that King Duncan is coming to her castle to stay for the night. Her evil mind takes a terrible decision. She tells Macbeth that they should kill the king at night. Duncan arrives and Macbeth tells his wife that he doesn't want to murder Duncan, but she stimulates his desire to be the king. She tells him that they will kill the king and put the suspicion on the king's guards. At midnight, Macbeth sees in imagination a bloody dagger is in front of him. It is pointing towards Duncan's room. He takes a dagger and kills the king. Then he begins hearing voices. Then Macduff and Lennox appear at the castle gates. Macbeth greets them and they ask to see Duncan. Macduff and Macbeth enter the king's chamber, where the king's dead body is lying. Macbeth pretends to be shocked. He makes a show of great grief. Pretending to be very angry, he kills the guards, saying that he suspected them. Duncan's sons Malcolm and Donalbain flee to England and Ireland, fearing for their own lives. Subsequently, Macbeth spreads the rumor that Malcolm and Donalbain bribed the guards to kill Duncan. Macbeth is declared King of Scotland. The witches had prophesied that Banquo's progeny would become the kings of Scotland. And in order to defeat that prophecy, Macbeth decides to kill Banquo and his son. He asks his men to murder Banquo and his son Fleance. The murderers successfully murder Banquo, but Fleance escapes. Then at dinner, Macbeth sees the ghost of Banquo, but the other guests cannot see him. Macbeth is terrified and behaves strangely. His wife manages the situation and tells the guests that Macbeth is not well. Macbeth comes to the heath in order to meet the three witches. He sees them and asks three questions. The first answer given by the witches is, "Beware Macduff." Their second answer is, "None of a woman born will harm Macbeth." The third answer is, "Macbeth will not be defeated until the great Birnam Wood shall come to Dunsinane Hill against him." Finally, the ghost of Banquo appears, showing his 8 future royal offspring. Lennox and another lord discuss that Macduff has gone to England to convince the innocent Malcolm to join arms with Northumberland and Seward against Macbeth. They inform Macbeth that Macduff has fled to England. Since Macduff is in exile, Macbeth massacres everyone in Macduff's castle, including Macduff's wife and children. In England, Macduff and Malcolm agree to fight together against Macbeth. Ross delivers the devastating news to Macduff that his wife and son have been brutally murdered by Macbeth. Lady Macbeth becomes mentally upset with guilt from the crimes she has committed. In a famous scene, she sleepwalks and tries to wash imaginary blood stains off her hands. In England, Malcolm and Macduff plan for an invasion of Scotland. Macduff leads an army with Malcolm and Englishman Seward the Earl of Northumbria against Dunsinane Castle. Macbeth is informed that an army of 10,000 is near. At Birnam Wood, Malcolm orders his soldiers to cut the trees and use them as disguises. In the castle, Macbeth comes to know that his wife was died. In the meantime, Malcolm's army advances as through in a moving wood. As they hewn off the trunks of the forest while moving on camouflage, Macbeth learns to his dismay that Birnam Wood is moving toward the castle. The army arrives and Macbeth fights and kills young Seward. Next, Macduff and Macbeth fight. Macbeth boasts that he has no reason to fear Macduff, as he cannot be killed by any man born of woman. Then Macduff declares that he was taken prematurely from his mother's womb and was therefore not of women born. When Macbeth hears it, he loses all his courage. The prophecy of the witches seems to be coming true, and soon after, Macduff kills Macbeth. Then Macduff crowns Malcolm the new king of Scotland.